Hello and welcome to Frank's School, 155th day. I've got Mendelssohn's Behold a Star up here because on the piano, when I was struggling trying to show you about a diminished seventh chord and how it resolves in different directions, I'm sure this is on YouTube. It's a gorgeous anthem. Well, it's part of an unfinished oratorio called Christus, I think. Anyway, in the word, while the text is going to reign in glory over the nations, well, right on that syllable, a diminished seventh is struck, and it resolves on the word nation. Then I think that repeats, and once again, that diminished seventh, I believe, is struck, and it resolves in a different direction. If you actually wanted to hear it in real wonderful music. I had a mistake on the board, aller Anfang. There should be an R there. I'm sorry about that. So quickly my German fades. Well, we're going back to Brother Sun, Sister Moon. And if you stopped where I'd want you to, I believe that the little bird is a sparrow. I think it should be, because sparrows are not usually that valued. And St. Francis is always associated with sparrows. If you see sculptures of him in backyards, his hand is out. And the legend is that the birds would land in his hand, because he was so gentle and had such a wonderful relationship with nature, which I've capitalized. When Pope Francis chose the name Francis, there was such a stir worldwide of interest. Who was Pope Francis? Who was St. Francis? And immediately they grabbed onto the idea that here was a man who identified with the poor. They have been slower to educate themselves and then develop the idea that here was a man whose relationship to nature was very special. Anyway, as you watch this, watch the eyes. Now the eyes become more obviously a theme, Francis's eyes. He is better. He recovers, sort of, from his disease. Note the use of the veil with the camera work, and also the zooming that occurs. The theme of feet becomes present, but I should have said bare feet. You'll see that. Hands, Francis reaching his hand and the bird. You'll see hands, you'll see this. You could almost argue maybe that these themes are overdone. I don't know. Francis's theme, the musical theme, begins, Brother Sun and Sister Moon, da 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 da, is the way the whole thing goes. But it starts very slowly and very uncertain because he has been sick. And when he recovers, he's changed. He is uncertain, really, even of who he is now. Now, how did they do it? What I mean is filming him on the roof or even in the balcony, reaching and trying to pick up that bird. I wonder how they did that. Do you train sparrows? I don't know. Nature. Well, you're going to see after that then that Francis is into the birds, but he's also into the flowers. I didn't write it down, but you're going to see a whole field of poppies, those bright red flowers. I think they grow like weeds, I think, in that part of Italy. And anyway, they're poppies. Now, a criticism of the movie, which maybe it deserves, is that it's too corny. I read a review that used the word corny, or too sweet. The word schmaltzy comes to my mind. Overly sweet. Maybe so. I saw this movie first in a movie theater in Dartmouth, New Hampshire. The year I think was 1973, and the movie was booed. That was at Dartmouth. That's a college, and I went to Harvard, and supposedly Harvard and Dartmouth don't get along, but I was put out that they would do that. But they were responding to it being too sicky sweet. I worried about that with my students, but I think when I showed this to my 7th and 8th graders, they were not, although there's lots about 7th and 8th graders that's hard to deal with, I don't think they are naturally so cynical as the people were. Now, this was at the time of the hippies, and there's a connection between that. I mean, you need to put this movie into context, and later on I'll talk about that more. And of course hippies are associated with nature and freedom. The singer is Donovan. He's Scottish, and the place where I'll stop, I'm actually not going to have the movie run very far today. It's where you see so much is done with Francis and his mother's hands, and then her puzzled look at what he's done with her hands. Not very long, but that's where we'll stop. And now I'll go back over and see how that works. It seems like it's working okay. So see you soon.